All right, we're going to go ahead and introduce the last speaker. Mark, as you all know, is our esteemed director here at the JC Raulston. I've known him since I was a small person. We've known each other for about 20 years. One of the best plantsmen I've ever encountered in that time frame. So without further ado, Mark's going to talk to you all about plants to turn your brown thumbs green.
I'm actually going to move this out of my way a little bit. I don't like being tethered too much behind a podium. Love having this group here. I loved seeing all those hands go up at the beginning of the talk. I love hearing what other people have to say. There were times where Bree was talking where I wanted to say yes. I'm with her. I love getting rid of things. Man, I love ripping out plants. I'll sometimes be like, I don't love that plant so much, and I'll take it out, and then I'll look around and say, well, maybe I should take out this, and now if I take out this and this and this and this, I'll have a great space to redo and replant things. I am absolutely not precious about my plants. I love ripping out plants and planting new things, and plants are about the cheapest thing you can get, really. Sometimes they die, but the truth is they get better and better and better with age. And somehow we plant a plant, we say, well, we'll leave it there forever. Now, I'm not talking about a shade tree that you do want to be there forever, but I'm talking about in the garden, shrubs and perennials. And you don't keep your couch forever. You don't keep your car forever. You don't have to keep that plant that you don't like forever, that you got to cut back 6 times a year, and it just keeps growing and getting in the way and blocking the window or swamping other plants. The number of people, I have neighbors who still look at me like I'm crazy when they find out what I do, and they say, can you give me some advice about this plant? And I'll go over and I'll look at it, and it'll be some privet or something that they shouldn't be growing anyway. And they've been shearing it every year into some weird shape that doesn't look natural, and they can't put their finger on it, but they don't really like it, and they want to know what to do with it to make it better. And I say, rip it out and put in something good. And they say, but it's healthy, so, I can't rip it out. I'm like, yeah, you can. You don't have to wait until it's dying a lingering long death and looking terrible in your landscape for 3 years before it finally dies and you rip it out. Get rid of stuff. If you don't love it, get rid of it. In my garden, I plant things that are new and are exciting for me somewhere near the front of my house, around my house. And then as they start getting too big, because I love plants and I plant too many plants and they're all too close, I dig it up and I move it farther afield into my garden. If I like it enough, I'll move it somewhere kind of into my open woodland. If I don't like it that much, I'll put it down along the mixed hedge that I'm creating along the Deer Highway, along the city property on the backside of my woodland garden. Or if I really don't like it, I'll just rip it out and throw it on a compost pile. And my neighbors are always just shaking their heads as they're seeing me digging out plants, but I love doing that. I absolutely love getting rid of plants and getting new plants. And we love sharing plants here. I mentioned that at the beginning, that's part of our mission is to share plants. And we've got an online only, it's not in person, it's only online plant sale coming up. It opens to members first. Does open to non-members, but a lot of times, a lot of the plants are sold out by the time it gets to our non-member crowd. So members get it first. And then for members, we do the plant giveaway. If you can't afford to buy a plant, we'll give you plants. And it is the most fun. You got to come out and do it at least once. It's worth the membership price. Most people go home usually with, 9, 10, 12, 15 plants of some really cool things, stuff that in some cases you can't buy anywhere else. You go home with that, and that's worth the cost of a membership for sure. So I'm going to talk about plants. Bree talked just a little bit about how to get ready for that. Matt gave us a lot of resources for helping you figure out how to build the soil, how to do those things. Those soil cubes are great. They're especially great if, like me, you don't have a good place to put soil, and so when you get soil, like if you buy it in bulk, even if you know you're getting good stuff, and it gets dumped in your driveway, and then your wife can't park in the garage until you move it all, gets a little bit tricky, or you do it in the street and your neighbor complains because their daughter can't back out of their driveway now, both of which has happened to me. The soil cubes are great because they'll put it out of the way somewhere on a pallet, and then you can use it as you need it. But now I'm going to talk about plants. What do you do? What are you planting out there? And really talk about plants that are hard to kill. You can kill anything if you try hard enough. If you plant and you don't get any rain for, let's say, 6 weeks and it's 90 degrees like it was this summer, things can die if you don't water. We had a poor intern from Ireland this summer. Oh my gosh, she was a trooper though, but I was concerned for her safety out there this summer. So I will say that a lot of the plants that I'm going to talk about really quickly, are in this book that we put out, Gardening in the South. This was in part the inspiration for doing these programs. We were looking at everybody who was moving into the area, everybody who was were buying first houses and were learning to garden, or had gardened somewhere where they talk about, where I grew up. And on Long Island, we had soil that you could stick your arm all the way down to your shoulder in the soil and grow anything. I always thought they irritated me so much until I actually went to some gardens in Long Island. I was like, they actually can grow anything here. But this gives some tips on how to garden in these areas. It echoes a lot of what was said by Matt and Bree, but also talks about the plants quite a bit. So we do have that here if that interests you. So I said I'm going to do the 2-minute history of the Arboretum. The JC Raulston Arboretum was started in 1976 by Dr. JC Raulston. He had been in many other areas of the country working and going to school, traveling. And by the time he got here and was hired to teach nursery management courses, plant ID, and to do extension work in supporting the nursery industry and to helping raise the nursery industry, he had developed this kind of rule. He called it the 40-90 rule. 40 plants made up 90% of the market wherever he went. So this is getting close to 50 years ago now. He was saying that no matter where you were, if you went to garden centers in central North Carolina, there were about 40 plants that were going to be available. And the finer ones maybe have a few other things out there, but you were really limited in what you could get. And his thinking was nobody can enter the market as a new nursery owner. The nurseries that are existing aren't going to be able to really flourish if everybody's growing the same thing. So he set out to diversify the American landscape, in his words. And so he started just bringing in any plant he could, any trees, shrubs that he could, growing them here, seeing how they did. The ones that were good, he didn't just leave out there and say people will see them and want them. No, he got them, he propagated them. Thank you, Bree. We can make more. He propagated them and got them in the hands of nurserymen, of landscapers, of the public. Just got those plants out there, which is why we do a big plant giveaway, because we still love that legacy. Plants that didn't do well, but he thought might be good garden plants somewhere else, he got to other botanic gardens and other researchers in other parts of the country. Plants that did well, but nobody ever was interested in, eventually would get cut down. We are evaluating plants. So we are cutting trees down and planting new things all the time because we have to keep going. And JC was incredibly charismatic, a great communicator, really passionate. He was called plant profit and all kinds of different things. Passed away in 1996, unfortunately. The JC Raulston the name was changed from the North Carolina State University Arboretum, which was a mouthful, to the JC Raulston Arboretum. Still a bit of a mouthful, but not nearly as much. In 2004, Horticulture magazine commissioned this painting called A Heavenly Garden Party. These are the 25 most important gardeners, plants people who had ever lived from a slightly European perspective, I would say. But, there are people out there that we all know, like Thomas Jefferson. There's no greater service you can do your country than to introduce a new plant. If you're more of a plants person, you might know some other people. You might know the name Gertrude Jekyll, Ernest Wilson, Asa Gray, Graham Stewart Thomas, if you're a rose person. We've got our own Elizabeth Lawrence in here. But right here, not in the foreground, not with Thomas Jefferson, but, still in full color, we've got JC Raulston. He was considered one of the 25 most important plants people. And there you see him bent over with pruners. JC was a little bit, he was well known, perhaps notorious, infamous for liberating cuttings wherever he went, which he could never understand why somebody would be upset about that, because we can make more plants. We don't have to hoard them. We can make more. And so he would do that. And I'm told that he was persona non grata at Kew Gardens for a while because he liberated some boxwood cuttings, of all things, which is rich if you ever read into the history of Kew Gardens and their history of smuggling rubber plants out of Brazil and tea plants out of China, literally under cover of night, literally smuggling them out. It's a little rich that they got a bit on their high horse there. But he couldn't understand why you wouldn't share plants. The Arboretum has always been open to people in the industry to come and take cuttings and go to their nurseries. A nursery that I thought was shutting down, a mail order nursery in South Carolina, has been bought and has a new young owner. And the first thing I did when I found out was email her and say, you got to come visit us. We got all kinds of plants that we got for you. We want to support the industry. We want to get those plants out. And that's part of what separates us from most other botanic gardens. It's about getting these plants out. I've worked at other places, and the viewpoint is we'll grow it, people will see it, they'll love it, they'll demand it from the nurseries, and then the growers will grow it. That's not how it works. You got to get it to the growers, get them growing it first. So we're an arboretum. What is an arboretum? It's a place where they grow sticks. No, we're a botanic garden that focuses on trees and shrubs, although we grow a lot of other things as well. And we try to do it in a beautiful way. We are an evaluation garden. It would be easier for us if we planted everything in rows to evaluate them, but it's a lot harder to get people to come and enjoy when it looks like that. So we do try and plant in garden-esque settings and garden how people would at home. JC used to actually plant in this old clay soil. He would not amend it because he said, people at home don't amend their soil. We've changed that because we tell you to amend your soil, and if you don't listen to us, that's on you. But it's the clay soil, for those who are new here, is wonderful stuff. It is chock full of nutrients. It is amazing, but it needs some organic matter for drainage and texture and these kinds of things. And we have on our YouTube channel a lot of talks that delve really deep into soils. All of our Intro to Gardening in the South programs that we've been doing for the last however many years, I don't even know however many, all these talks are online on our YouTube channel. We can talk more. I can talk a lot, so we don't have to hoard it any more than we have to hoard our plants. So I mentioned at the beginning, we are self-supported. The university pays for my salary as director, and they pay for our housekeeper's salary. I go plant collecting in the wild for 3 weeks at a time. Nobody cares. Our housekeeper gets sick for one day. They have to send a replacement in for her. So it kind of tells you the relative value we bring to the place. But we are self-supported. So how do we do that? How do we pay for all our staff and all our plants and all our equipment and everything else? We do work with a lot of students. Really, we should take that off because we have 300 active volunteers who contribute, almost 15,000 hours to the organization, and not all of them are young. Gardening keeps you young. Remember the good old days when it was only got up to 90 degrees during the summer and only 80% humidity? But these students are fantastic. They really are amazing. They're so smart. They are so hardworking. I'm still not entirely sure about my post-college age children, but the students we get through here are pretty phenomenal. And we do serve the university. They do work. The classes do projects out here. They learn out here. They utilize the collections, not just horticulture, but a whole raft of them. You give them direction, and these students will do anything. I gave this talk in the UK to a group of RHS group and if you've ever heard the term deafening silence and you don't think that is a real thing, it is when you're speaking to proper British ladies. Apparently this reads differently in the UK. So let's get into some trees. I broke this up: trees, shrubs, some herbaceous plants if we have time. We look at plants from kind of a big lens. We're looking at built landscapes, gardens, areas that are intentionally being human utilized and changed. We don't do native plant conservation here. UNC Botanic Garden down the road, the NC Botanic Garden at UNC Chapel Hill, they do native plant conservation, and they do an amazing job with it. We love what they do, but that's not our mission. We're looking at built landscapes. So when we look at plants, we don't necessarily look at where they're coming from as whether they're good or bad. We're looking at them, are they good plants for the landscape? Do they provide good garden benefits? And that's in a broad sense. That's not just pretty, that's other aspects. So I didn't break this out into native, non-native, which seems to be something people like more and more. So I will try and remember to tell you when plants are native. And I did use Latin names. Thank you, Matt, for not making me out on the island by myself with the Latin names out here. This is our native black gum, Nyssa sylvatica. Nyssa grows in bottomland, mesic forests, wet, sometimes seasonally inundated forests, but it is also incredibly drought tolerant. Like many plants that grow in areas where they can be seasonally flooded, they'll grow in compacted soils as well. Because they need less air around their roots, which they don't get when the soil is saturated. So there are a lot of selections of black gum out there for shape and form. They usually all get some leaf spot on them in our high humidity, but they are fantastic, tough trees for the landscape. Like I said, all plants need to be established. You need to care for them when they're planted, water them in. Here's a secret people don't tell you. The smaller the plant you put in, the easier it is to establish. I plant a lot of plants in little pint pots, 3.5-inch square pots. That's because that's what we grow a lot of plants here in, including trees. And I will plant that little 3.5-inch pot in the ground, and I will water it well to get it established. And if it gets really dry, I'll water it again. Summer like this, if it were newly planted, I'll water it. If I plant a 3-gallon of that plant there, I'm going to have to water it every week, at least deeply, for a good while, for most of the first summer, at least. If I go bigger than that, get a really big tree, I'm going to have to keep watering that for a couple of years. Now, you don't have instant plant there. When you're planting a little tiny tree, you can step on it and break it, but it is easier to establish. If I go to a garden center and they've got an option of a 7-gallon shrub, a 3-gallon shrub, a 1-gallon shrub, and a quart shrub, I'm buying the quart. Yes, I'm cheap, and that's part of the reason, but it's because it establishes so much better. And in a short time will catch up with the larger size plants. They will sit there longer and longer than the smaller they are. Another native plant that is so underused, another native tree, Cladrastis kentuckia. This is underutilized because it makes an ugly young tree. When you buy this, see this thing as a young plant, it is wonky. It's got one stem and sometimes have another stem off to the side, kind of chunky, and it just doesn't look like much. But boy, you get it in the ground and let it grow a couple years and it gets this beautiful rounded head and then these dripping icicles of flowers hanging from it. It is just one of the most spectacular trees, and it is so woefully underutilized.
What's the common name?
Sorry, the common name is yellowwood. Yellowwood. Another native, I didn't do this on purpose, I was just looking at tough, easy plants, is our native fringe tree, Grancy graybeard, Chionanthus virginicus. This is a smaller tree, beautiful, goes along woodside edges, sometimes near water. I find it very tough. I'm really impressed in NC State Centennial Campus. They've used this in some parking lots. I was not sure how it was going to do in a situation that tough. It's done great. Now, Chionanthus are dioecious. Mostly they're male or female plants. Plants, you know, gender's a little more fluid than that in plants. So sometimes that can change or there can be some crossover. But the male ones are showier. You get these bigger puffs of fluffy flowers. The females, however, will have little blue fruits. This is in the olive family. Think of like little olives hanging from the tree. There is an Asian species of this, Chionanthus retusus. This is bar none one of the toughest flowering trees, small to medium flowering trees available. It is tougher than our native one. It is amazing. This is a male form. The female forms, again, are a little less showy in flower. Our native gets good yellow fall color. The Chinese fringe tree can get okay fall color, but not always. They're spectacular plants. There's some upright ones. It's one of the few things I have more than one of in my garden. I have 3 of them along the side of my house of a form called Tokyo Tower, which is an upright form. Another non-native Asian tree, persimmons. We have a native persimmon. It's a big tree. It's a tough tree. You get fruit on it. It can get great fall color. It's not always the prettiest tree. It's got a certain beauty to it. But the Asian persimmon is a small tree. Our native persimmon gets quite large, but the Asian ones stay small. They're more in the 20-foot range. Diospyros khaki. Fuyu is the most common selection. There are other ones you can find out there. We were just at a trade show this week where somebody was selling it with a couple of different Asian persimmons grafted on the same tree. Most of the ones you will find in the trade, like Fuyu, are non-astringent. So if you know our native persimmon and you bite it, it's very astringent. It'll make you pucker up. So these are not like that. Fuyu and a lot of the ones in the trade are seedless, and they're sweet. They don't need to go through that cold period to get sweet. They'll like our natives do. So you can pluck those off. They'll be pretty firm, almost more like apple texture, but nice and sweet. You can hold them off harvest them and hold them, and they'll get softer over time, but they're really nice, sweet. I like it sliced up. It's really good, but they're also beautiful. These are like 4 inches across. They're beautiful hanging on the tree, these big orange fruits, and then the fall color on the tree can just be absolutely unbelievable. Again, that's a tree I grow without any the fruit on there at all. Even if I couldn't eat the fruit, it's just showy enough. Ginkgo, another one. Ginkgos are, these dinosaur type of trees. They've been around forever. They were, if you like native plants, they were native to North America, 30 million years ago, but they're in the fossil record here. So, it all depends on your definition of native, what your time frame is for that. Beautiful plants. This is another one where there are male and female. You will generally want to get male selections. Most everything being sold with a cultivar name, with a name on it, like Princeton Century or Allen's Glorious or anything else, will be males. Because when they fruit, it's a soft, kind of round fruit that'll drop from the tree if you have a female, and they stink. They stink so bad. It is like a cross between vomit and dog do. And I'm not saying that just to say it's a bad smell. It is a cross between that. And I know that because my roommate, who was in landscape architecture and taking classes with me while I was a horticulture student, took a handful of berries and put them on my carburetor on my car. And I have that smell is very, very deep rooted in my psyche. I can smell it. But they're beautiful trees, and one of the best things about them, if you're like me and you like not to work in the garden, you like to garden but not to work, is that in the fall they turn the most incredible sumptuous gold you will ever see. And then all the leaves drop off in one day. Just one day they decide they are done, and every leaf is on the ground, and you have this carpet of gold on the ground around the tree. Our native oaks are wonderful plants. I used to garden with a massive, massive southern red oak in my backyard. And that tree, I would go out in the backyard and there would be literally 18 inches of leaves covering the entire backyard. And I would look up and the tree was still green. It would do that for about 3 months. It would drop those leaves. Oh my God, which is great if you're leaving the leaves and gardening under there, because those oaks have their leaves dry before they drop and they don't mat like maple leaves and they don't kill your plants underneath there, so you can ignore them. But it is awfully nice to have all these leaves drop at once. It really is. My neighbor got one. Yes, thank you. If I can get them to cut down the southern magnolia that the leaves keep ending up in my garden, I'll be great. Maples, we kind of think of like Japanese maples, the small maples, and then our big native maples, red maples, sugar maples. But there's a whole group of mostly Asian, mid-sized maples that we don't really grow that much. The trident maple is one of the toughest. They've got them growing down on South Glenwood, where all the bars are. And so if they can tolerate all the college students out at the bars all night, they're tough in the little street trees. But they're just these mid-sized trees, beautiful bark, beautiful form. I thought I had fall color. They can get really good fall color. There are a lot of different forms of this. I love the trident maples and some of the other maples like that. Moving into some shrubs, kind of tree shrubs, our native Ilex vomitoria. This is Yopon holly. This has more, you can get some teas made of this now. People are doing this commercially. It's got more caffeine than yerba mate, which is made from another holly from South America, Ilex paraguayensis. It also has theobromine in there, which is what you get in chocolate, which gives you the energy without the jitters that caffeine does. There are a lot of great ones. There are tree-formed ones. There are weeping ones. We grow these for the berries. They really fruit well. Best if you have multiple Ilex vomitoria, some male ones as well. But these are ones that'll often fruit even without them. This is one Carolina ruby that was introduced from the Arboretum that is really just some of the brightest red fruits. Another one that I really love that we grow is one called Yawkey from an estate in South Carolina called Yawkey that has these golden yellow fruits on it. But Ilex vomitoria is so tough. There are little dwarf shrubby forms, there are tree forms, weeping forms, almost anywhere in your landscape where you want it. I don't know why the dwarf ones aren't grown more often than the Japanese hollies, Ilex crenata, which have, if they fruit, they have little black berries on there. If you're going to grow a dwarf evergreen shrub, grow one that's got showy fruit on it at least. But this. Great.
Birds like the fruit?
The birds love the fruit. Yeah. Birds love the fruit of any holly. Any holly.
30 minutes, so you can keep going, but you're cutting into.
I've only got I'm getting through the shrubs pretty quickly. I'll keep going quick. Yucca rostrata, another. If you like that kind of look, these are tough. People think of these as desert Southwest. They love, as long as they're getting drainage, they love our heat and our moisture. They grow much quicker. And this is, a yucca on a stem, but great in a container as well. I like things that I don't have to water in containers. Acubas, as I was told, these are parking lot plants. Yeah, that means they're good, tough plants. We grow, I don't know how many of them, 60, 70, 80 of them. If you want the best one with green leaves and yellow dots on there, Hosoba Hoshifu is the best one. It is widely available, but there's some other things out there like Natsu Nukomo, which new growth comes out bright white and then it goes green. So it'll be green for most of the summer, but that's better than a flowering plant. Our native hydrangeas, hydrangea arborescens. We have 2 native hydrangeas, and they're always kind of the lessers of what we see out there in the industry. We grow the big leaf hydrangeas and the panicle hydrangeas, which are Asian, but our hydrangea arborescens, this is one called Incrediball. There are some great pink ones that have come out of NCSU breeding programs, along with this Calicarpa. This is Pearl Glam. That's in my garden at home. No, maybe that picture, I do have that in my garden at home, but spectacular fruiting on there. Look at that, and with purplish leaves. We love our native red buds. We have been introducing a lot in conjunction with our former director, Benny Werner. This is one Golden Falls, a weeping gold leaf form. Got Flamethrower, which won the Royal Horticulture Society's Plant of the Year at the 2021 Chelsea Flower Show. Comes out burgundy and goes kind of coppery and then gold. Just constantly doing that. Amazing small trees. Same typical lavender pink flowers in the spring. Love the red buds. A few more things if you like color. See, I'm a big person, forget about the flowers. If I can get color on my plants, that lasts a lot longer. So this is another one from NC State called Spirea, which are tough plants. This is called candy corn. And you can see kind of the progression of colors of this thing. It's just this kaleidoscope. And then it'll kind of settle to mostly all yellow and then have these kind of mauve flowers on there. I actually don't care about the flowers. They're great and the pollinators love them and everything, but I've planted it too close to a bunch of other things. So part of my excuse is saying I don't care about the flowers. After it kind of goes to all yellow in my landscape by, kind of early summer, I cut it all the way back down to the ground and let it resprout, and I get that coloration all over again in my garden, that candy corn color, which I love. If those of you who have gotten our shirt, or you want to after this, we are featuring this Magnolia Serendipity, which was a plant that we didn't introduce, but we made sure it didn't lose out because the person who bred it didn't see how good it was like we did. But Magnolia Serendipity, it was lucky that it was saved, but it just flowers and flowers and flowers. Evergreen shrub, kind of a big round thing. The trend is all for little narrow skinny things, but this guy's a big old honking thing. But it flowers over 2 months in the spring. Alyssium or anise shrub, there are Asian ones, native ones. This is one of our natives, Floridanum. This is a little dwarf one, swamp hobbit. If you got deer problems, Alyssium or anise shrub or starflower, this is one of the plants you should be considering. And this is one of the Asian ones. This is another one that it flushes out purple and then goes green. And this is one that I also I let it flush out. It looks great over the spring. Once it goes all green, I'll go in there and prune it again. Let it flush out again with that dark burgundy. Some summers I've done that. I've cut it back 3 times. This summer I only did it twice. I'm working to get it kind of in a more cone shape in my garden. But right now it is just spectacular because it's all that purple above the green leaves. Just mention a couple of herbaceous things really quick. We have found one fuchsia that will grow for us. Santa Hemp, or Angel Earrings Cascading, is an awesome plant. It is so good. It just flowers and flowers and flowers and flowers, dies back to the ground in the winter, come back, flowers and flowers and flowers again, and light shade. I'll leave it there. Those are trees, and that's kind of a sub-shrubby kind of a plant that we grow. Most of these, like I said, are in the book. All of these are pretty much all of them are out in the garden. I think that there is no better way to get to know what grows well than going out to the gardens around here, and there are fabulous ones, and seeing what is growing and looking good out in the landscape.